Hey everybody, and welcome back to Marvel Champions Experience. Remember, I would always I don't know why this thing is still up here. Let me move this. Remember, I would always appreciate it if you consider liking this video. If you really like this content, please think about subscribing. It really helps out the channel. And last but not least, please drop a message down. Be nice about this one, please. Drop a message down in the comments below. Let me know what you liked, what you saw. I would prefer not to know what you didn't like about this one. These are always very volatile. Let me know what you didn't like, what you saw. Let me know if you want me to make some specific content and anything else in general. So please, if you would ever be so kind, can I please have a like, subscribe, and comment? This video is actually requested by one of you guys who requested me to update the villains rankings, and I was like, but I did that. But I didn't do that. I didn't realize I haven't updated this since Mojo Mania, since was a while ago. So, all right. Before we get into this rankings, I do want to say I would like to preface this with these are not the definitive rankings. I'm going to do it. This is going to be a tier ranking of difficulty, but just remember this game has so many variables. Even if we just took the villains, right? The amount of different modulars you could add to make the villains difficult, even if you were just to take the villains deck, just the odds of you drawing specific cards, you could play 100 games and have 100 different games, right? Once you add the modulars, that just becomes its own set of circumstances. Then you add your deck based on what you draw, right? So it's extremely hard to make a list like this. So I'm trying to be as objective as possible, focusing on what the villain tries to do, you know, depending on if they can actually do it as another choice, another story, but it's really what they are trying to do. But again, very difficult to do this, okay? Because I could play a game against Rhino and get crushed by him, and you can beat him in one turn. So just know that going forward. All right, so this game has a lot of villains. You know, some are super difficult, and some are super easy, I think, for the most part. So I have some notes, so I'm just going to go off with them a little bit. All right, so let's see. Let's start. Okay, I always get the most hate for this, and you know what, guys? I'm sorry, but the first one I'm going to put is on that bottom E tier, right? And I know that there are Wrecking Crew believers. I know that you're there. I hear you, but I don't think the fight is that difficult, right? It's kind of hard the first time that you do it, but you know it's really like a one-trick pony. Once you learn the way the fight goes, it's actually not hard at all, right? So again, I know that there are Wrecking Crew believers. Oh, sorry about that. I'm sorry for all of you, but they are my first one down there. Okay. Based on that same premise, right, of knowing how to do the fight, I'm going to throw Norman Osborn Risky Business in there because before I move from the Wrecking Crew, they were the first attempt at a multi-villain fight. So they laid the groundwork and foundation for everything else. Like, we have really good multi-villain fights. So if it weren't for Wrecking Crew, we wouldn't have the great multi-villain fights that we do now. Wrecking Crew is the Wii U to everyone else's Switch. So next is Norman Osborn for the same exact reason. Norman Osborn is pretty easy because you can't thwart out on him. So you really can just stay on one side, build up your engine, and then just face roll him completely. Okay. Next on this fairly easy tier, I am going to throw Brotherhood of the Badoon. Another pretty easy fight. I've never really had any difficulties with this, especially, you know, you have the Milano to use as well. So it kind of like covers the thwarting for you for the most part. And he never is really like ever too crazy and ever too difficult, especially in a campaign box, Galaxy's Most Wanted, that is notoriously difficult. Surprisingly, he's on the much easier side. All right, next, and it breaks my heart, but I'm going to put, where are they? Let's see. I'm going to put, here we go, the Sinister Six fight. The Sinister Six fight from, what the heck is it called? Sinister Motives. Duh. So I'm a big Spider-Man fan, and this fight didn't really do it for me. This fight didn't really do it for me. Like overall, it is a much better multi-villain fight than the Wrecking Crew, but at the same time, it's a thwart race, so they don't have too much health. Once you kind of just racing towards the end with the threat to thwart it out, and that's it. It doesn't really have any twists and turns for the most part. I've never really run into too many difficulties in this one, so I do find this one pretty easy. All right, what's next? All right, we're going to stay on that Sinister Motives train, and we are going to throw the Mysterio fight. So I've recently gone through all the fights again in expert mode, and I'm going to let you know right now, I barely remember fighting Mysterio. Like, I know he has... Oh, I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video. This game is also very hard to rank tiers for anything because there's only so much given time in life that, I have a full-time job. I do the full-time dad thing. So it's just kind of hard to remember all the fights. So I'm just going based on gut feeling. And Mysterio, don't remember him that much. Very unmemorable. I know he's got some clones and he's does all that mystery stuff, but I don't remember. There are villains in this game that I'm looking at right now on the screen. I'm like, oh God, that fight. And Mysterio is not one of them. I do think I've kind of just crushed him every single time I fought him. So, so I'm looking at my notes. I'm looking at my old list, and I'm going to skip somebody for right now for a specific reason. Actually, I'm going to put, who is that? Oh, yeah. You know what? I owe everybody an apology. This right here, I'm going to do this right now for the most part. And I might be mixing things up every so often in this. This is the mansion attack scenario. In my last video, I had this under easy. And boy, was I wrong. I was wrong. Again, I told you that this game, they based on what you draw, based on what you get, you get different fights. I must have gotten the most lucky draws on this originally because this is not an easy fight. This is not an easy fight at all. Granted, I'm specifically remembering the expert difficulty, but it wasn't too much different than a normal difficulty mode. And this is a very difficult fight. Let me rephrase that. It's not a very, very difficult fight, but it's challenging. So it is not easy. It is not easy. For now, I'm going to definitely bump this up to at least C. I'm definitely bumping this up to C. And we'll see where it lands after that. All right. And the next one I have here is Master Mold. Yeah. I went back and forth in this one in my head just now. But if I'm remembering correctly, and I think I am, you get Magneto in this fight. And because you have the Magneto ally in this fight, because you have the Magneto ally in this fight, this fight is kind of trivial. Magneto is so strong, the ally that you start with in this, he kind of can just take the minions while you work on everything else. It's a fun fight. I actually like the fight a lot, but I wouldn't say it's difficult by any means. All right. So for now, I'm going to leave that as the easy tier, the very easy tier. And then this next tier is a little harder, right? These are the ones that I like to test decks on. I'm getting to the point where I kind of just want to throw myself into the fire. But if I'm truly when I was really learning the game and I wanted to experiment, I had deck testing villains. And this next tier is villains that I think are not easy. They will give you a decent challenge while learning a new hero or just learning some mechanics, and I think they're overall fun to test decks on. And the first one is Absorbing Man. I don't think Absorbing Man is that difficult, right? He works on environments, and he's got some interesting mechanics. He's got different traits he can take, but he doesn't do too much. He's definitely harder than the other villains. He hits kind of hard, and depending on the traits he has, you need to learn to adjust. So, I do think he is a fun villain to test decks against. I've always had a good time testing decks with him. Another one that I like to test decks against is the Sandman, because he introduces something called sand counters, right? And it just gets you thinking of I need to exhaust people in order to remove the sand counters because he can make the deck thin out and it can really cause trouble if you let those sand counters build up, right? So he forces you to start thinking outside the box. You know, he never gets overly aggressive, but, you know, you can lose to him if you're really not paying attention. So the next one I had in this list here, you know what? I'm looking at my notes. I think I'll leave him here. And that one is, where is he? Is this him? Nope, that's not him. Where is he, guys? Let's see. No. Is that him? Oh, yeah, here he goes. Ebony Maw. So, again, should have mentioned this in the beginning. These rankings are for true solo only. So, and Ebony Maw is the one that I'm specifically thinking about with that, because if you play him two players or two-handed, his spells can get aggressive. However, playing him single player, the spells are very, very manageable. Okay, you know, he really works on that spell mechanic where the spells tick down, you know, and then they erupt on you. But if you have a character that can control him with stuns and confuses, he's not difficult at all. But again, he's another one where, just like the other two, where if you let his gimmick build up a little bit, you're going to be in trouble. So he is pretty fun to test decks against. One of the better villains to test decks against, I think, is Crossbones. And the reason why is because, you know, we got him in the second ever expansion, and he has multiple main threats, right? So like you can let the main threat ride for a little bit, you know, and you pay for it by him getting attachments, which you can take off. But it really gets you thinking about, you know, using the threat as a resource. We're like, okay, for this turn, I'm not gonna thwart. I'll let it build. You know, I'll let it go to the next main scheme, but I'm going to do something else instead. Oh, you know what? I actually need to remove his attachments. Let me give up some cards. So it really gets you to thinking about some strategy in the game very early on. Similarly, in that same box, we have Taskmaster, another good deck testing villain, because he punishes you for switching between hero and alter ego mode, right? So you really need to think about when you want to swap to alter ego mode to heal or to draw an extra card and then switch back, because you're going to take damage when you do that, right? So, and he's got some decent difficulty to him. So he is, again, one of the first villains that we were introduced that truly got you thinking about when you want to flip. Is it important to flip now? Do I have the ability to do it? Because it's just when you flip. So even if you confuse him or stun him, it doesn't matter. His ability just says when you flip. Let's see. All right, another decent, you know what? Maybe this one should go up a little more. Yeah, so I had the Sentinels here. I don't think they're actually called the Sentinels. Hang on. I have all the rule books here. I want to give you the official name before somebody yells at me. Let's see. Is it Knight of the Sentinels? I mean, I know that. No, that's the name of the scheme. Let's see. Project Wide Awake. Yeah. So I'm considering bumping this up one right now. I had this under deck testing. I don't think so, actually. Yeah. So I'm going to bump this one up a little bit this time around, and we'll talk about that when we get to that C tier. And another one that I bumped up, I said this before, I was like, oh, you know, I originally, in my original video, had Rhino on the easy tier, but I am going to bump him up. This one, I did say, that I think in the last video, like I debated putting him up, and I am going to put him up here. I'm going to put him up there. So Rhino's actually a very good villain to test decks against, because he's not actually easy. He's the first villain that we are introduced to in this game, but nothing about him is truly easy. You know, we all know that. Those of us who've played for a while, and if you're new in playing, Rhino's not easy. If you've lost to him, it's not your fault. He's got one main scheme with a pretty low threat threshold. I believe it's 7, right? So one bad turn, and if you flip and he schemes and you get like a 3, Then he, the stupid one where, advance, I think it is, right? Where he's going to scheme again. You just lose. Like it's not your fault, right? So, but I do think he's a decent deck testing villain, right? Especially if you have a hero that you want to mess around with stuns and confuses to control him a bit. He hits hard, right? So if you, what I also like about him is it's a fairly quick fight. It's fairly like one note. There's nothing too special about it, right? So yeah, this time around we're gonna bump him up a little bit. Good job, Rhino. You made it. All right, we're now moving into the C tier. Definitely, I don't want to test decks against these villains. They require a little bit more thinking. They're a little bit more difficult. And we'll start with the two that we already have here. The first one, I bumped up 2 complete tier lists, right? And that is Mansion Attack. Oh boy, did I have a difficult time with Mansion Attack on Expert. And I'm just thinking them as full now, not necessarily on Expert, but wow, they are really hard. Their abilities just punish the hell out of you, and then they switch, and then it's just really hard to control them, and you don't know what you're getting, and then they have so many minions that come with them. I'm almost tempted to put them in the B tier, truly, which I might. I'm like looking who I have in the B tier. Yeah, I'm bumping them up. I'm sorry. I completely missed on that the first time around. I'm like just thinking back to the fight I had against them. So I'm bumping it up again. All right. I am going to keep the Project Wide Awake here, though. I think this is a good spot for it. It's challenging. So what I like about Project Wide Awake is it punishes you for chump blocking, right? Which is basically a strategy that we use, right? We're going to get an ally out, we're going to chump block with them, and we're going to negate the damage and mitigate it towards us. But Project Wide Awake says, no, you can't do that, because it will take that ally and put it under the side scheme. And once that hits a limit, you lose the game. It also has other cards that will like just put a card under the side scheme. So it's not easy. And the Sentinels that it comes with can be challenging. They have guard, they have patrol, I believe one of them has quick strike. So it's one of the first real step ups in the game. I mean, that's not true. It's a later expansion. I'm just looking at my list right now. It is a real bump up from the previous tier, the deck testers, and the first one, a challenging villain. The next one I will put is, where is he? He's somewhere here. Kang. I don't think Kang is this is fine. He's challenging. He's not the only reason why I don't have Kang in the deck testing tier, right, in the D tier, is because it's a long fight. It's a very long fight. You have to go through multiple phases of him. But the reason why he's solid at this C tier and just challenging is because he's pretty hard in phase 1. Like phase 1 is not the easiest thing to get through. Phase 3 is not the easiest thing to get through, because at that point it's been a very, very, very long fight. Phase 2, very easy. Very, very easy. You cannot thwart out on phase 2, meaning you can just defend the entire time, build up your engine, let it thread out. The penalty for threading out on phase 2 is minimal at best, right? So there's really no purpose to killing him in phase 2, and you're better off just waiting for the threat to go out. And that one reason would keep him in this tier. If you were able to lose in that turn, I would say, yeah, he's probably B tier. But because once you get through phase 1, you can kind of recover and just, put out some supports and upgrades in phase 2, and then hit phase 3 just running. So not too difficult. Harder than the other tier, but not too difficult. Okay, here we go. We'll put them here now. This is I just want to remember the exact name of it. It's the Corvus Glaive and Proxima fight. Let's see. It's the tower. No, what was it called? It's right here. I have all the books. Yeah, tower defense. Tower defense. Let's see. That was Mad Titan Shadow. That was the 3rd expansion, and that's where they're starting to get a bit better at two villains. not the best, but they're starting to make some progress. Okay, there's only two of them, and they work back and forth with each other. And if memory serves me right, you have to kill them both at the same time. But not too much, not too difficult. The one thing you kind of have to like worry about is the Avengers Tower, because if it takes too much damage, you'll lose. But it's a little swingy, right? Sometimes the tower will take more damage than you were ready for, but definitely harder than the previous villains of the deck testing. A little bit of a challenge, but not the worst. Not the worst. All right. All right. So next we have Collector, and this is Collector Phase 2. Yeah. This is, I just want to make sure I have this one correct, the name correct. Believe this one is Escape the Museum. Let me just take a look. If I have the, yeah. I think this is the correct picture. What I want here is Escape the Museum. I do believe this is Escape the Museum. This one is a little challenging. Not the worst. This one, what's really hard about the Collector is his modulars that he requires you to use, but we're not talking about those. The main gimmick of this fight is just escaping. It's really stupid. It's called Escape the Museum. It's a race against the thwart. So you kind of just want to remove a lot of thwart very quickly. That's how you advance to the end of this level, So if you're using a hero that doesn't have a lot of thwart, it can be very difficult. But, if you plan for it ahead, it can offer a bit of a challenge, but, it's not the most difficult thing in the entire game. Next, we have Hela. And I'm tempted to put Hela down in the D tier for deck testing. Is she a challenge? So in my previous list, I had her at the C tier. And I think, for me, I am going to drop her down one tier. Yeah, I'm going to drop her to the D tier. And the reason is, so I had her in the challenging before, C tier. The reason is she's very similar to Risky Business and another fight that I will be adding into this game. She can only be defeated once you get through her 3 main schemes. So you have to use a lot of threat, right? And get through that. But you can't, it's not too difficult. You can kind of just defend and take your time. It's a long fight. But at no time is it ever oppressive. She can get what's it called, attachments and stuff, but and she doesn't have a lot of health, so if you take her to 0, she flips over, and I believe she's a 0/0, and she loses her attachments, and you can just keep her there while you work on the minions and the side schemes, and then she flips back, so you can take her to 0 again, and and just rinse and repeat and just take your time with it. So yeah, I do think this is in this D tier because, it can get you to learn what a long fight looks like while not being too challenging or difficult. And it's another one of those things, once you learn the mechanic, it's very easy. It's very easy once you learn her gimmick. She's definitely harder than Norman Osborn, like Risky Business, but she's not as difficult as something like the Collector, Escape the Museum. But for challenging, I will put Venom in here. I will put Venom in the C tier. He is just a brute. He's just a brute. He basically, he'll stack encounter cards against you for any time you do extra damage. He does have a gimmick to him as well, where it is the church bell, right? And if you flip it over, he takes extra damage. Again, he's got a gimmick, and if you use Retaliate, I've been playing a lot of Gloomhaven, and it's called Retaliate in Gloomhaven. My brain is not working right now. Basically, I think it's called Retaliate. Oh my god. Basically, if you put your Retaliate on, +1, the bell will give you an extra +1, and Venom can basically kill himself, right? Just with you defending. So that one, if you're playing protection specifically, he's pretty easy. But if you're not, he's kind of difficult. So he's like in this weird space where, you know, he hits hard, but if you know what you're doing, you can like mitigate a lot of the damage. It's definitely harder than the villains below him, but not as hard as like Mansion Attack. All right. Here, in my last video, I had Claw as challenging. And I'm 100% moving Claw from the C tier to the D tier. Claw is actually my favorite villain to test decks against. He is not too challenging. I think he's perfect. I think he's actually a perfect villain to test decks against. And that being said, a lot of new players have difficulties with Claw. And the thing is, I've learned through playing this game for so long that it's not actually Claw that's difficult, it's a Masters of Evil that's difficult. And I've said that in so many comments, and I've said this in so many Reddit posts. Claw is not difficult himself. It's the Masters of Evil modular that's difficult. And once you remove that and play with a different modular, he becomes so much more manageable. So much more manageable. And I think he's really fun to test decks against. You know, he doesn't hit too heavy, and it's kind of swingy because, you know, he draws 2 cards, and, you know, his attack can be a bit random, and but that makes him go through his deck, and, you know, it'll increase the acceleration tokens, and you want to get through and comic quick, and when he turns to phase 2, you have to deal with his side scheme that gives him extra health. I think he's really fun to test decks against, as long as you remove the Masters of Evil side scheme, because that's what's actually difficult about him, nothing else. All right, but in this challenging tier, last time I had Magog, and I think this C tier, I will keep him here. I think this is a perfect spot for him still. He's not someone I would really... I find him more difficult than everybody below him, but not as difficult as, you know, this tier above him. This is a perfect spot for him. He's very similar to Venom. He has a really fun gimmick where, you know, you have to like rile up the crowd and get them on your side, and, you know, he like when you flip him over, you get more challenger points. It's a very fun fight. He can hit pretty heavy, and the Nemesis, not the ally, the minion that he pulls out when he changes, when he changes, I forgot when he pulls him out, but like there is like, you will pull out his, a specific minion in this fight. I don't remember if it's like when he flips or the main scheme like flips over or something like that, but that villain or that minion, pretty difficult to work with. But once you get through that, you know, you kind of just balance out the fight with learning how to roar up the crowd and finish off Magog. And last time I had Spiral here in this C tier. She's definitely not below this. I'm questioning if she should be higher. And I don't think she does. I think this is another good spot for her, right? She's got a gimmick where you're kind of looking for her, right? She's like teleporting around, and you have to remove threat, and when you remove threat, you search I think it's like a 3-card pile, and once you find the 1 card you're looking for, you can start attacking her. Her health isn't that much. Her cards that she like has in her kit aren't the worst to deal with. You know, it's just that one randomness of finding her. So I think this is a good spot for her, because like, if you find her right away, you're going to crush her. If you find her on the last turn, the 3rd card of each time you look for her, she's going to be more difficult, right? I think the randomness of her, you know, makes her a little harder than the people below her. But the randomness of her makes her a little easier than the people above her. All right, that is our C tier. And let's start talking about, you know, this Mansion Attack, where I've put it in the B tier. I've moved it from E to B. I've moved it up 3 tiers. That's how difficult I actually think this fight is. You know, again, I played this one a while ago. I can't remember exactly what was like the one thing. That's the thing. I don't think there was one particular thing about this fight that frustrated me. I think it was everything. Because they like switch out, and their abilities are pretty devastating for the most part. And then not only like are they themselves difficult, but they like have their allies in their deck, right? So like you're fighting a lot of minions, you're fighting them. You know, you have to be worried about the mission, the mansion, and the mansion actually has like you have a random side scheme or main scheme that you're working with that has a different ability on it that can make it a really really hard fight. So I apologize. My friend Matt, hi Matt, you know, he was like, mansion attack is not easy. I was like, you're crazy, man. You must be playing the wrong fight. Nope. I am on the public apology tour. I am sorry, mansion attack. Like, I might just be in my head right now for putting this one at B. Maybe it deserves to be in C, but it caused me some serious trauma the last time I tried it. And it took me like 5 times to beat it. So as of this recording, it has earned its place in the B tier. Maybe next time it'll drop it down one, but it's definitely not going to go below C ever again. All right. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. This is Infiltrating the Museum. We're getting close to the top. These are like the top 3 tiers. Good God, is this fight hard? Oh my God, is this fight hard? This is the Collector 1, Infiltrating Museum. He basically has this collection, you know, and if he has X amount of things in his collection, you know, you lose the game. And he just has like cards that automatically put things in your collection. And if I'm remembering correctly, like when an ally dies, it goes into the collection. And oh no, I remember what it was. It's like when your card is going to go into your discard. I haven't played this in a long time. When a card is, I believe it's when a card is going to go into your discard pile, it goes to your collection. It's when it's like when a card in play from the table goes to your discard collection. So like if an ally is out and you lose from consequential damage, or you chump block and dies, instead of going to the discard, it goes to the collection. And then like an upgrade, you know, if it has X amount of uses and it's supposed to be discarded, it goes to the collection. He has other cards that just go to the collection. So it's just really hard. Like, you don't want to chump block with him for the most part, right? You don't want to get those abilities that, like, you know, discard an upgrade from the standard modular set. He's really hard. I don't like fighting him. This tier is where you kind of got to get specific on like you really got to start making some like this B tier is where you want to like really be thinking about making your deck like a little bit tailored to the fight, but not completely. You know, you do have some room to like mess around with him, but he will make you pay severely for any mistakes. All right. Next in this B tier, oh man, everyone's favorite robot, Ultron. Good God, do I hate this fight. I hate this fight with a passion. You know, I'm looking who I have in my... He would be higher, but I truly think the people above him are just that much more difficult than him. And I think Ultron's very hard. So, yeah, it's his drones. Good God, is it his drones, you know? In like finding him standard, you know, he just starts putting drones on you, and if you get him to phase 3, I think he's just putting drones on you no matter what. In expert mode, like no matter, oh yeah, right, in expert mode, he's automatically going to stage 3, where it's like everything is a drone. He just uses your deck against you, and you need to be taking the drones off of you right away, because you know, like I said, he'll put your card, the top card of your deck, down as a drone, and if you don't take care of them quickly, those will give him a +2 attack, and then they'll attack you. And you know, he's instead of instead of his base attack being 2, if you've got 2 drones on you, it's not 2, it's 4, and then the drones hit for 1 each, so it's actually a 6 attack. So he can overwhelm so quickly, so quickly. And you know, if you take a look of where the other villains were in this, you know, Rhino and Claw, I both have in the D tier. In the base box, you know, they have this one really, really hard villain. And if you can get over him, you really start to have a feel of the game. All right, next we have the Red Skull here in the B tier. And yeah, I'm thinking about should he move down? No, I think, again, this is a really good spot for the Red Skull. Interesting fight. Again, this came in the second expansion. He has a lot of side schemes. So his gimmick is side scheme, side scheme, side scheme. Every single turn he pulls out, he has a side scheme deck. So every single turn he's going to pull out a new side scheme card. So you need to like make sure those are getting off the table quick, right? In addition to like dealing with him, I do believe he gets a +1 attack for every side scheme he has out in play. So, if you let those side schemes build up, not only are they a detriment to you, but they make him stronger as well. And he has one side scheme in particular, I believe it's called the Red House, where when that's out, he just takes no damage. So that's not including the fact that he will have minions that you have to deal with. So you need to like very much plan out having a way to deal with threat at the same time while dealing damage. Like not even a little bit of threat, a lot of bit of threat. The next one in this B tier is Sabretooth. This one, I'm looking at who I have earmarked for the tier above him. And again, I don't think he's more difficult than the tier above him. So I'm going to keep him here. He's definitely harder than the people below him. So Sabretooth is a difficult fight because he can heal like on every single turn. And, you are trying to protect Senator, whatever his name was. Oh my God. You're watching this video and it's like, I don't know X-Men. Senator Kelly. There you go. I didn't even have to look at it. Senator Kelly, right? So once again, Senator Kelly has gotten himself into trouble, right? And Sabretooth is trying to kill him. And in phase 1, phase 2, you can't really do much with him in phase 1. He's just kind of there taking damage if you let the threat get up. But in phase 2, you can use him as a chump blocker, but you got to be careful. But Sabretooth can hit really hard, and then he has cards that'll do damage to Senator Kelly just because. And his healing factor is always difficult to deal with. So he's a good challenge. He's actually very difficult. And last in this tier, tempted to move Mojo up right now. Tempted. I'm looking at who's here in this A tier, who I have. Yeah. I'm moving Mojo up. And I'm going to... So in my last list, I had the Hood in the A tier. I'm actually going to move the Hood down to the B tier. So one of the reasons why I had the Hood in the A tier last time is because of his surge mechanic, and how many modulars he has, so it's very hard to plan against him. But overall, but that's his gimmick, right? Lots of different modulars and just adding them in. And the surge mechanic is annoying, but aside from that, he's definitely not as difficult as I thought, last time around. I played him in expert mode. I kind of ran through him pretty easily. So I think I was just a little overwhelmed with how many possible choices that he had, and you can't really prepare for them. But I think I was overthinking it, and he's not actually as difficult as I thought he was. He's a great pack to pick up because you get lots of modulars, but in terms of difficulty, he's not as hard as this next A tier. Okay, we have the A tier. Now these A tier, the S tier is impossible. Just want to put that out there. The S tier, I'm pretty sure I have 3 villains currently in there. I haven't looked at the new villains that were added to the game since I last did this list, but the A tier is unstoppable. So sorry, the S tier is unstoppable. And this A tier is basically those, I have 3 villains in the S tier, and if those villains weren't there, this would be the hardest people in the game, right? There's only 3 people above this next tier villain. So I have Mojo up here. And the reason why I have Mojo up here is because I had him in the B tier last time, and I had only played him once or twice, and I've played him a handful more times since then. His random mechanic, unlike somebody like the Hood, which is very broadly random because it's like pick any, modulars, and modulars vary in difficulty. But Mojo's like you have to use the specific modulars that he requires, and they're based on settings, which are essentially locations, and they're not easy. They're not easy at all. And he like runs through his deck, and it's not that big. And if like his deck schemes out twice, if he runs out of cards 2 times, you lose the game. So you're kind of like in a rush to beat him because he's like discarding cards from his deck like crazy, right? He'll like put cards on you from his deck, and then like if you like have to flip or thwart, like all those go on to his side. It's just a really, really hard fight, and his locations don't make it any easier, right? So very, very difficult fight. I was wrong about this the first time, so he's earned a bump up to the A tier with the rest of the villains that I have that are pretty difficult. All right, next tier we have Mutagen Formula. This is one that I probably could bump down. You know what? Let's hold on Mutagen Formula for now and see. I'm gonna see how that looks in a second. All right. So next I have here is Nebula. Oh man, this is a hell of a fight. This is a Guardian Galaxy's Most Wanted fight, right? And this box is made to hurt us and make us hate this game, and it sure as hell has. So this fight, she ramps up the threat so fast. If you basically, if she schemes, if that main scheme advances to main scheme 2, I'd say like 90% of the time you're going to lose that fight, because she puts acceleration tokens down in the game, and it's really difficult to remove them, and they carry over to the next side, and that like it just ramps up so fast that like you can't really keep up with it. You kind of have to build a deck like thinking about almost a vast majority of the things that she does. And with her techniques, they can come out at inopportune times and you're just like not ready for them. Yeah, I really like, she's one I really, really hate fighting. Somebody else I hate fighting is the Mad Titan Thanos himself. And it's not necessarily Thanos that's the difficult thing. It's that goddamn Infinity Gauntlet. Man, you put that Infinity Gauntlet on any villain. You put that Infinity Gauntlet on freaking Risky Business, and that's gonna be a hard fight. So we're not even talking about the fact that Thanos is not easy himself, but the fact that he's the Infinity Gauntlet with him, that just makes it worse. Last time I fought him, I was playing him an expert. He got to phase 2 of the main scheme, deleted like half of my deck, and then he just had his way with me. So, you can like confuse him and stun him, but that's not necessarily going to stop the Infinity Gauntlet. Like, it's still going to reveal gems. It's just delaying the use of the gem. So even though you stun him or confuse him, the gem won't go off. It's just waiting though, and then you'll get like blasted with like 3 to 5 gems at once. So Thanos, extremely difficult. Another one that I have up here, like a fight that I hate, like I truly hate this fight. I don't think it's the hardest fight in the game, but I just don't enjoy playing him, is Arnim Zola. This is a hard ass fight. So his minions are insanely strong. They come with like guard, they come with retaliate, they come with quick strike, and then basically every 3 turns you're gonna get a minion, because I believe the gimmick is like every turn you put a counter on the thing, and then if there are 3 counters here, search the deck for a minion. So and he starts the game with a minion. So like you have to put a minion out on you first, and then like every 3 turns after that, you get another one, not including like if you drew a minion from the encounter deck or like drew one as a boost that you just have to put out. And then you can just like be like bombarded with minions. And then like Zola himself is just really, really difficult. He's got retaliate on him. So I think, where do I have Red Skull? I have Red Skull below him. I think that Zola is the hardest villain in that box. I think he's one of the hardest villains in this game. I truly hate fighting him. Another villain that's really, really, like the last villain I currently have, we have some to work through, that I have in this A tier list is Magneto. This is like Kang in terms of like, it's a long fight. Like you have to, this is like a mix between Kang and like Hela. You have to get through a certain amount of side schemes or main schemes. There actually are, I believe. It doesn't matter. You have to get through a certain amount of schemes to be able to hurt him, right? So it's like remove X amount of threat from this scheme, flip it over. Remove X amount of this one, go to phase 3. Remove X amount, go to phase 4. Now he can be damaged. So like you have to remove a lot of threat while paying attention to the main scheme. Yeah, I think it's a side scheme. While paying attention to the main scheme, he's gonna like throw sentinels at you with his abilities. He's like just really strong. It's a long fight. It's a really, really long fight. And like even if you get like pretty deep into it, he could just eventually wear you out. Unlike Kang, where you can like spend that middle phase kind of just like getting stronger. Magneto is like that long, and he will not let you do that. You mess around with him, he's gonna crush you. All right, my S tier, my like god mode villains that are just like the hardest in this entire game. Before we get there, we got to talk about Mutagen Formula. Yeah, Mutagen Formula is not as difficult as any of these guys. It's hard, and last time I had it in my A tier, but it's gonna get bumped down 1. It's gonna get bumped down 1. Yeah, this seems right. This seems like a good spot for it. Like Mutagen Formula is definitely. I'm like looking at this tier, and I think he's at least on par with Sabretooth. And the reason why I say that is because his minions, he's like can hit really, really hard. The bomb, like a lot of his pumpkin bombs, and I'm just thinking of the minions. He's got a lot of minions in this fight, so it can be like very overwhelming to deal with them. He just has a very, very high attack, so he can just like kind of like beat down on you pretty quickly. And like I'm looking at Venom, like, well, he's kind of like Venom, but like unlike Venom, who has like the bell to like help you not mitigate the damage, but like help you with attack against him, the Goblin does not. He's just kind of just going to keep attacking you and like swarming you with minions, and you just kind of just have to deal with them until you can like whittle his health down. But yeah, he's not no he's, he had his spot up here for a bit, but I think this is a better spot for him. All right, now that the S tier. So number 1, well, not number 1, but the first one I'm putting here is Venom Goblin. Oh man, I hate this fight. I hate this fight for multiple reasons. I hate this fight because it can be just like a pain in the ass to like keep track of like where the Goblin Glider is going on each scheme, and like so number 1, it has like 3 main schemes. So you need to like you're gonna kind of have to assume one of them is gonna thread out, and each of them has a penalty. So you kind of have to be like, all right, on this turn, like I'm gonna have this sucky thing happen to me, and then he's just gonna like hit you really hard, and God forbid, like I forget exactly the name of the upgrade. It's like a Goblin Glider upgrade. God forbid he gets that upgrade, because I believe that's the one where he just attacks twice in a turn. You're dead. I've gotten that upgrade on him, and somebody, let's say it this way: every time I've had that upgrade on him, I have not been able to beat him. The side schemes just ramp up real quick with threat. Like their penalties on them like are not easy to deal with. And then if one of them flips, he has like the symbiote environment out, and then he has cards that start interacting with them that just like make your life hell. Yeah, he is not fun. Speaking of not fun villains, my friend Matt bringing him up again. Last time he's like, Loki's not that hard. And in our Discord, he's like, oh my God, Loki's hard. Loki's hard as hell. Loki is hard as hell. So the reason why Loki's hard as hell is because, number one, the freaking Infinity Gauntlet, right? And now we're not even talking like just the fact that he has the Infinity Gauntlet. You remove the Infinity Gauntlet from him, he's still hard. I would argue that like without the Infinity Gauntlet, he might still be in this S tier. Maybe not. He'll probably be in the A tier. But yeah, probably. Yeah, debatably, debatably, he would be in this tier without the Infinity Gauntlet. He's got he's got 5 different forms, I believe it is, right? And I think 2 of them have steady, right? So like, God forbid you're trying to stun lock him or confuse him, he'll just remove that. One of them has retaliate, so you're just gonna like hurt yourself to death. One of them is stronger. One of them has more threat. Like, you don't know which one you're gonna get. Like, you cannot plan against him, right? Because you don't know which Loki you're gonna fight. At least the other villains, for the most part, like, you know what their attack and thwart is gonna, like, you can rationally plan that out. Like, if they have steady, if they have stalwart, like, generally within. You don't know with Loki. And then he has the Infinity Gauntlet. This guy can go to hell. And speaking of going to hell, everyone's least favorite villain in this game, Ronan. All I can say about Ronan is I've beaten every villain on this game in expert mode, except Ronan. And it's not because I haven't played him yet. It's because I don't want to play him yet. In standard mode, Ronan is probably harder than every villain, any villain in expert mode. He is just unfair. And I think I heard the rumor was like, after Rise of the Red Skull, people were saying, oh, the game is too easy. And then I think Fantasy Flight was like, well, here's Ronan. He hits so hard. It's not even funny. There are 2 people, like a couple people on Reddit I've seen have said the same thing to me. Oh, and my buddy, I think Nelson said this too. Yeah, my buddy Nelson said this too. So the same thing that happened to my friend Nelson happened to me, and I'll explain my story. I was playing, loving the game. I just got it. Like, it was amazing. The only 2 expansions are out. Galaxy's Most Wanted came out, and I played Ronan. Ronan beat me in the first turn. And I was like, what the hell is that? Like, he beat me in 1 turn. Played him again. Beat me in 2 turns. I put the game down for 3 months. He literally beat me into not liking this game. Same exact thing happened to my friend. He is just unbearable. He is oppressive. He is not fun to play against. Once I build up the courage to play him and beat him on expert, I will never play him again. Ever. Have no want. Don't even want to do it right now. Just going to do it for the content. Okay, so that was our reevaluated list of the up to the current content for them before the last 2 boxes that have just come out. All right, so now I'm going to be putting in the new stuff. All right, so let's start with Next Evolution. I believe I have everything here. Okay, so this one I believe. Okay, these are the what are they called? It's I gotta get the Next Evolution book. I'm gonna make sure I give you the correct names. So this first one is the Morlock Siege. All right. I haven't played these too much. I've played them a little bit, so I'm kind of just going off my gut feeling. Both of these, the Morlock Siege and On the Run. Morlock Siege is not really too hard. There is nothing from that fight that I'm like, oh my god, that is hard. I don't. Is it easy? And I would like to call out right now that I moved. I moved Mansion Attack up 4 tiers for my last video, so something very similar could happen. The more I play these, but Morlock Siege, I'm gonna put that in easy for now. I'm gonna put that in the E tier. There was really nothing about that fight that I remember being too difficult. I do remember, however, on the run being a little difficult, or at least more difficult than Morlock Siege. So I'm going to put that in the D tier. I don't think I'd necessarily test Dex with it, but it's definitely harder than this one. So this one is, again, just because it's they use the same villain, so I didn't want to like put like that there, so I put the scheme on it. This one is Morlock Siege, and on the E tier, and on the D tier I have On the Run. All right, and next from that box is the Juggernaut. Now this is a hard fight. This is a hard fight. This is not E. This is not D. It's not A. The question is Juggernaut C or B? And I think it's B. I think Juggernaut is very hard. I think Juggernaut is very, very difficult. He has like a mechanic where you can remove his helmet, and make the fight a little bit easier, but that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. And then like when you flip him, the helmet will just flip over again anyway. If he kills Hope Summers, the game is over. You can't lose the game on threat, but if he thwarts out, he's going to get stronger. I've seen him up to like a 7 and 8 attack. He is Rhino, but way harder. And I think a B is a good spot for him. He's definitely harder than Venom. Yeah, a B is a good spot for him right now. He's not as hard as Magneto. He's not as hard as... Yeah, this is a spot. I like him here. Then we have in that box... Who else is in that box? Was it Mr. Sinister? Yeah, Mr. Sinister. I actually didn't find Mr. Sinister that difficult. His main thing is like he gets attachments. He starts with a random side scheme, and then he'll get a modular based on the side scheme that he has, and then if it flips out, you add another one in there. He's not as easy as these people. He's not as hard as Juggernaut, but I do think Mr. Sinister should probably slot into that C tier. He's challenging. He's not a cakewalk, and you kind of got to think through what you're doing. But so far, I haven't had the worst time with him. And then we have Strife. He's a little bit hard to place. No, I don't think he is. I think there's really only one spot for Strife, and I think it's the B tier. Or A tier. I'm trying to think. So Strife's main thing is he basically will, like his like main gimmick is you'll take damage based on the amount of a certain, like your hand size for the most part, like ability, like resource types in your hand. So it's really hard to know exactly what his attack's going to be. I don't remember him being too difficult. I had some trouble with him, so we're actually gonna drop him into this B tier. I remember these guys being difficult. I'll never forget it. Even Mansion Attack left I come back like 8 times, and such an impression on me that I moved it up a couple spots. Strife, I thought was gonna be really difficult looking at him, and then like playing through him, I was like, oh, it's hard, but it's not like the worst. All right, now we are going into the newest content, which is Age of Apocalypse. And the first is Unis. This is an easy fight. This is E. This is E tier. This guy is not hard. He's not hard at all. He has like... There is like a gimmick with him where like he punishes you for chump blocking because he like whenever like one of your allies goes down due to like damage or something like that, one of his side schemes gets a counter on it. But like, I don't know, if you're not playing an ally heavy deck, he's not hard. I don't know. I really didn't like. I like crushed him like the 3 or 4 times that I played him. Like it wasn't even close. So I'm just gonna keep him there. I don't think it's that hard. Next we have the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and this is gonna go up. And I think it's gonna go right here in the C tier, right smack dab in the middle. So I'm like looking at I'm looking at Mansion Attack and I'm looking at Four Horsemen, and they're both multi-villain fights, and I'm like, is Mansion Attack really harder than Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse? And I think the answer is yes. Yeah. For now, I'm thinking. So Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, number one, the villains, like, you can't beat this fight until they're all down at the same time, right? And they all have some. You know what? I'm actually putting it to be. I've decided to put it to be. Thinking about their abilities. So basically, they each have an ability, and it's like every time they, I think it's like every time they attack or every time they activate or something like that, they do this like nasty thing, and like one of them is like discarding like 5 cards from your deck, and then one is direct damage, and like you can like think ahead and take care of it, and like you can attack anyone that you want, right? And if you bring their health to 0, that ability will not trigger. However, they also have attachments that like will make them trigger, like even if their health is 0. So I am going to keep it here for now because I do think it's like, I'm looking at the C tier, and like I do think it's more difficult than, yeah, this is a good spot for it because I don't think it should be on the same level as tower defense. It is more difficult than tower defense. So yeah, I feel fine about having it here. This next ranking I think is going to be a little divisive with probably you guys. It's Dark Beast. I didn't have a hard time with this fight. Truly. I truly did not have a hard time with this fight. And it's like the 4th fight in this box, and I almost feel like I should put it pretty high because I'm sure a lot of people did have a hard time with it. I don't know, but it's just like based on my experience, I really didn't. Like I truly didn't. Like it's almost like a Rhino fight to me. Like the only gimmick he has is his locations, and I didn't even like, I don't remember, like it wasn't hard. It wasn't difficult. Like I don't feel right putting it at C. I'm going to put it at D. And I would love to know your thoughts on that because I think I got lucky on it. And I do think that the more I play it, it will rise up like Mansion Attack. But as of right now, the 4 times that I've played it, it was really easy. So I would like to know everyone's thoughts on this. Is the one I really want to know. All right, and then we have the 2 Apocalypses, and I just beat these guys, and I don't think either one was more difficult than the other. I think they're probably, yeah, I don't think either one was more difficult than the other one. I slightly feel like the first form is a little bit harder than the second form. Slightly, just because it's like like the Magneto and Hela fight, but it's not the worst. I'm gonna put them both in the B tier for now. I do have a feeling they're gonna go up to the A tier with them. Yeah, maybe yeah, let's see. Let's see how these look here. Does these look good here? I'm thinking. Yeah, I actually think this is a fine spot for them. Both of them. There's a chance these could drop down to the B. Something about it feels wrong about it being in C. They're not that easy. It's a toss-up between A and B. And I'm going to lean on the side of I'm thinking like ahead on this one, and I see the potential of them being difficult. Like I personally didn't struggle too much with them, but I do see what they do and why they're difficult. So like that first phase, it's like Magneto and Hela, and you have to go through like 5 different side schemes, and each of them come with a minion with them. So just like Hela, but definitely harder than Hela. And then like once you get through with that, you can to kill him. But you can use, like, once you bring him down, you can like remove threat from the main scheme. He's actually, oh, you know what it is? He's definitely much easier on single player than multiplayer. The second one has to deal with a lot of attachments. He just gets a lot of attachments and he can get really, really strong. And he can flip a lot to 3 different forms, and each of them do something. And, the cards will just keep having him flip. He's basically the villain version of Ant-Man, right? So I think A tier is good for them right now. Yeah, that feels okay. That feels okay. I'm thinking ahead with this one. All right, there's our list, guys. There's our updated list of villain rankings for the game. Please be like somewhat kind to me in the comments. I know everyone has a favorite villain. Everyone has their own experience, but this has been my experience so far. Well, thank you all. Take care.